Greetings, dear Taurus. This is Tarot Lumination with your love and relationship reading for June 2017. There's you, Taurus. There's the other. Now, I'm going to apologize straight up because I just did the whole report and then the whole system froze. Rock solid, so I had to just crash everything and reboot everything. So I already know all the cards, okay? It happened to one of the other readings earlier. I had to do the same thing. I don't want to destroy the reading or the integrity of the cards, so I'm going to pretend like nothing ever happened and start all over again and give you essentially the same reading. It just looks different here on the screen because I'm not shuffling the cards for you live, and the cards were already placed and set. So uh, I'll just give you the rest of it. There are no reversals here, okay? I don't do any jumpers or flyers, and I don't have any oracles this month. It's really stripped down, basic, bare bones tarot from the Tarot Lumination perspective. And we do what we can here. All I ask is that you watch for your sun and your moon and your rising, and you make the best of it, okay? Put it all together. Try and come to some understanding, all right? Also, I ask that I would invite you to watch the little, it's like an introduction video, all signs, like overview for the June playlist for love and relationship. And it gives you a better understanding about the hows and whys of this particular spread and why Tarot Illumination like delivers it and presents it in this way. Okay? So please make the best of it. My apologies for the little freeze up, screw up. We're just going to do what we can. Okay? So, dear Taurus, the spread is laid out. And a lot of people, including myself in this particular reading, I want to know kind of what the general weather background is for the environment of the reading, so to speak. It's just like literally the weather outside your front door, because it does affect your life, how you conduct your life. Because like the most of us, we just make do, whatever the weather is. If it's beautiful, great. If it's awesome, great. You still have to conduct your life and live it anyway, okay? Accordingly. Make your decisions accordingly. So in that understanding, dear Taurus, we have for you the little Three of Pentacles. And like I was mentioning in the reading before it actually everything froze up, it feels to me as your reader that you're in an environment where you are being deeply appreciated and understood. Okay? And not only that, it's reciprocal, where you are appreciating and understanding and valuing a significant other. And it's only understanding that this is very much a work in progress, and there might be a lot of factors that are not fully understood. But that's okay because it's mutual. It's very, very mutual here. So it's very, very supportive, very benevolent energy for not only for yourself, but for the relationship and for a significant other. Okay, this is all for your benefit. So it's beautiful. Beautiful to have this on your side, Taurus. So obviously, make the most of it. Let's have a look. What's going on with you, dear Taurus? So in the context of relationship, you might be discovering aspects of your shadow self that you might not have even known had existed, or also parts of yourself that you probably did know exist, but you weren't like ready to face it or deal with it or handle them. But now it's becoming very, very apparent that you might be chained, literally, to situations, feelings, relationship dynamics that are not healthy for you. And even though they might be very, very, very delicious, also, you might be in the throes of, let's say self-medicating your way through relationship dynamics in order to, let's say, uh, address the shadow side of the self, where it's on the understanding that deep, deep down, dear Taurus, you might be really, really enjoying certain relationships and understandings and how it all works and how it's always worked. And you've just accepted that this is how it is. I am totally tied and bonded to this and there's no escape. And that's fine. On the other hand, it's been a really delicious experience. And I, in my own way and understanding, I do have everything I want and that I need. Okay? I also want to add here that it also might indicate that you're in like a relationship dynamic or part of a dynamic where you're actually savoring and enjoying um, like aspects of relationship that are very, very, very delicious to the point where it's like crazy drug delicious, and you almost can't stop yourself. And that's okay for a while. You just don't want to overdo it. This can also indicate that um, it's appropriate to actually indulge in the delicious, wicked, delightful sides, so-called wicked or taboo, delightful sides of relationship dynamics. The raw side of it, so to speak, but to conduct oneself in a way that uh, it's not consuming, that it doesn't own you. Okay, so there's a lot of ways you can interpret that energy, but for now, let's just say that in the context of relationships, significant relationships, for this little June reading here for Taurus, it's becoming evident to yourself that you may be owned by shadow aspects of your nature that need to be addressed, okay? And as delicious as they may be, um, it, it might be it might be very, very limiting for you. It's almost like, well, the obvious, perspective is like a being bound to situations um, that can be limiting, even in all their splendor, even in all their apparent uh, sense of what works. In other words, you could be like in a state of bondage to yourself according to your beliefs and understandings, to the point where it's actually limiting, and it's only just becoming apparent now. uh, so let's have a look what's going on with the other. Okay, you're dealing with someone who's in a very different uh, dynamic for themselves as a being in this relationship's dynamic in this situation. However, it's evident from this card, this little card, that they are very, very concerned about the equilibrium and the balance of the relationship, because their energy is very innocent and very well intended, and they are very well aware of some of the deeply challenging aspects that are occurring in the relationship that is affecting themselves, to the point where they have to take full appraisal of themselves uh, for their own health and well-being in the context of relationship, so that it doesn't work just for themselves. In other words, they're not just trying to extract whatever works for them. They are looking for what works for the relationship, because what works for the relationship works for them and works for you. So that's really good news. It looks like a very benign little card, but balancing these kinds of energies and dealing with someone, let's just say there's you, okay, in all your splendor, and enjoying all the good things, and then becoming aware of all the shadowy aspects of yourself in the context of relationship. What constitutes healthy, open, free, liberating, true relationship, and what constitutes shackles and bondages to, let's say, shadowy, redundant, subconscious aspects of the self that are owning you to your detriment. And lo and behold, you've got this other person here who's fully aware of that. And their perspective is to integrate and understand, to find balance, because they are vested in the relationship too, in a way that it looks like they see the value, because we've already determined that there's a high degree of value and appreciation between self and other. Okay, it's already there, it's already understood, and the other is taking a very deliberate perspective, deliberately different perspective, not only for their benefit, but for the benefit of the relationship and the benefit of yourself, so that it does um, it does contain the energy of harmony and balance, and ultimately what works, as opposed to being strapped in and tied up into what is ultimately almost self-defeating. Okay, despite how delicious that might be. um, just on another note, before we go deeper into the reading and the relationship itself, I wanted to mention that another way you can look at the little card is to say to yourself, you know what? It's about time I allowed myself to indulge in the really, really delicious side of relationship that I always knew existed. I just don't want to get hooked. In other words, like if you're really, really enjoying all the yummy stuff that happens in a relationship, uh, go for it for a while, but don't turn that into like a daily practice, so to speak. In other words, like if let's just say this is also contains the energy of self-medicating, so to speak, as a way to conduct through the relationship, including the positive sides where you might want to indulge in all the juicy sides of the relationship. That's okay. It's understandable. And if you're questioning yourself about that, that's understandable too. But please allow yourself to enjoy the delicious sides of the relationship without judging yourself or hurting yourself, so to speak. Just like you don't have to have like a continuous orgy all day, every day. You don't have to be like drunk on each other all day, every day. You don't have to like self medicate all day, every day. You don't have to party it up all day, every day. It can be a cyclical thing where you tap in and tune into the what actually works, like a harmonious balance as being reflected back to you by a significant other. So going deeper, what's going on, Taurus? Okay, I'm seeing this already as two energies. One, it's like you're uh, in your appreciation of another. You are now feeling that uh, if you're honest with yourself, you really would like to bring more and more and more to the relationship in a very substantial, grounded, stable, earthy kind of way that makes sense for the long term. This is very much a card of generosity and stability and ultimately the highest and best of intentions. And it's a very, very wholesome, generous, kind, and stabilizing type of energy. And it's very, very tangible, okay? Now, at the same time, I feel obliged to give you a reciprocal perspective in that you might be under the energy of appreciation and balance, where in the process of being evaluated and where balance is being brought into the relationship by a significant other, where some of the shadowy aspects of this side of the self can be dissolved and the bonds broken. And instead of being tied to things that don't work, you become liberated by what works. And that's one of the beauties of having a healthy relationship. It's no longer about being strapped and shackled and tied. It's about liberation, coming into one's own, so to speak. And you might be on the receiving end of some very generous energy from a significant other who has only the best wishes for you. Okay, so that's very, very nice to be on the receiving end of this energy. Okay, it's really, really like it's almost like they're bringing gifts, beautiful gifts that have real value, true long term value that brings stability and wholesomeness to a relationship. So going deeper with the other, what's going on with them. Wow, it's beautiful. Uh, Multiple aspects. From my perspective as your reader, the other is realizing that they have like a golden opportunity to be truly who they are in the context of this relationship. You might be dealing with someone who has a lot of healing energy, so to speak, and they happen to be adept at uh, some people call it spiritual alchemy, which often comes down to having the ability to integrate what appears to be highly contradictory, uh, self-deleting type energies, where um, instead of everything like turning to mush, they turn it into gold, so to speak. And that's quite a task because you're dealing with like the energy of being damned if you do, damned if you don't, and yet you come out of it with something beautiful. So the energy here of the other is that with all the best of intentions, they're coming in and radiating the energy of healing. This is like almost the ultimate card of healing by bringing into balance all the contradictory energies, all the energies that feel out of balance, and coming to terms with them, getting into stark awareness and realization and identification of what is out of balance, which allows the other party to radiate themselves and carry themselves as almost an ultimate healer type, where they bring in the energy of heaven, the grace of heaven, the healing power of love, so to speak, into the context of relationship, and they actually get off on it. They actually get the chance to shine in this kind of expression of themselves. So it's almost like this is a great opportunity for you, Taurus, to suck up and absorb all of this energy for yourself, because it seems like they're more than happy to bring this energy into the relationship. So that could be extremely beneficial to you, dear Taurus, especially in the context of relationship, where it might feel like bonds are being broken or have to be broken or severed because of coming to the realization of the shadow side of things, in order to operate and move on and advance and integrate in a whole new manner as yet to unfold. Okay, so there's a lot of healing that is going on here, dear Taurus. It may not be evident or obvious at first, but there is a lot of healing that's going on here. And the other party seems to be getting off on it. Now, let's have a look at the status of the relationship itself. Okay, well, here you go. All right, so in the process, let's just cut to it. We're just talking about transformational healing. And that might feel scary and frightening at first, because when you look at the relationship as a whole and you see the relationship as a crucible in a really loving and healing relationship is designed and owned and built and agreed and structured and contracted to be with another, to the point where you've decided we are going to live in this crucible that we create together in order that we can experience the ultimate spiritual advancement and healing of ourselves and each other in the process. And we just pray that the crucible itself, the relationship itself, has enough love and strength and integrity in itself to be able to withstand the energy of transformational healing, if that makes sense. In other words, you're going to go through hell and fire in the context of relationship, which is actually the process of alchemy, which is the process of bringing these disparate energies into harmony. It's like taking sodium and chlorine, which are highly volatile elements on their own, and merging them into sodium chloride, which is an ultimate, very, very benign energy without which we cannot have life. It's called salt. You can't live without salt, sodium chloride, okay? It's fundamental to our nervous system, our life, our world. So, dear Taurus, it might be an awakening that, oh my God, I'm actually living in a crucible right now, and I'm living through the actual experience of living in a crucible, where things are dying off and being cut off that need to die off in order for the new healing to occur, because that's essentially what the death card is all about. It's transformation, allowing what is dead and old and obsolete to die off and be gone, no matter how painful that might appear, in order that the new can grow and come out of the ashes, so to speak. In other words, we're going back to the traditional understanding of the death card. So where does that lead? How does that like extrapolate to you, Taurus, as an experience in the relationship? Remember, this is your reading for your relationship. It's not a couple's reading. In other words, if it was a couple's reading, it would look totally different, even though the spread could be the same. But this is your reading for you, and you can almost like, don't ignore the other party, but just allow that they have their own identity, integrity, and their own readings themselves, but that they are involved in the crucible with you. So please make this all about you, dear Taurus. So right now, where does this lead? Okay. By the way, dear Taurus, what I'm noticing is, because I already knew the cards in advance, and I had an understanding of the energy, this reading is being presented and is coming out much more quickly than some of the other reports. And instead of me like winging it and figuring it all out as we go along. I'm already kind of diving in. So please, I hope you don't feel shortchanged because this is 5 minutes shorter than the other reports, but uh, the content is the same, okay? So moving ahead, where does this kind of lead? Okay, well, okay, so Taurus, it might indicate like where it's heading is that it almost can feel like it's like an out of body experience where whatever happens has to happen because there's a lot of fated, let's just call it fated energy here. It almost feels like there's a lot of so-called destiny that is at play here. In other words, like this is meant to happen, this was meant to happen, and it is happening. And it's happening in a very beautiful way because there's real value here. And it's definitely an appreciation between self and other, but actually living through the relationship dynamic itself can be almost disorienting to the point where it's almost like being shot out of a cannon and all of a sudden like, whoa, wow. That's kind of what I wanted. I needed to see that. I needed to see myself from a much, much, much higher perspective, fully enlightened, but totally disembodied. Wow, that's so cool. Because now I can learn and see about this side of myself that I guess if I admit it, I knew. And now I can understand like the fuller dynamics of a crucible type structure of relationship. And I can enjoy the benefits of transformational healing that can occur in a loving relationship. And all happening at the same time where it's very obvious that they love you very much and that you love them very much and you're willing to bring it home and make it evident in a very, very simple, tangible, understandable ways, person to person. However, that understanding is coming through this like period of feeling like you're watching your life as though you're watching a movie of yourself from a very disembodied perspective. And that can be very humbling, okay? It can be very humbling to understand and come to terms with a bigger dynamic, a bigger awareness, a bigger understanding of the, the relationship aspects of life to the point where it's almost like, oh my God, gulp. Uh, this is kind of like cool. Uh, it's almost like I knew this was possible. I could have wished for it, and it's actually happening. And I appreciate that it's happening. It's just very strong energy. It's obviously very healing, and I can feel it. But if I'm really, really honest, it's also very scary, and it's making me feel very like trippy and disembodied. And it's almost like going through the month. It's almost like it's a continuous like, oh my God, wow kind of energy as whatever is being shed and cut and exposed is happening in real time. And you just let it happen. The beauty is just to let it happen because there's so much benevolence here. There's so much love for you. I mean, there's no obvious court cards here like that reflect like cups. Sorry, I meant cups cards. But you have to understand, like, we're not just talking about romance here. We're talking about a full-blown, full-on, uh, going in the deep end type of relationship dynamic where both parties are obviously highly appreciative of each other, and they both seem to be willing to live in the context of the crucible, even at maximum levels of endurance, where the crucible is challenged to the maximum level, to the point where you're seriously questioning, will the crucible endure? But guess what? It's beautiful. The crucible endures. And so that allows for future unfoldings to occur. That allows for this energy to slowly, slowly dissipate in time into another reading to the point where you don't have to live from this super high consciousness perspective of yourself and your life and your experience of the relationship. Eventually, as time moves on, this sense of separation from self and other, uh, like from extreme high perspective, like when an eagle is flying around way, way high and they're looking down at the ground way, way down here, and they spot something that they love and they want, and they go, eagles can do that. And at this moment in time, just for now, you're way, way up here at this disembodied self in the context of a very worthy relationship, which allows you to address this side of things, and it allows the healing to come to you, and it allows the transformation to occur so that the relationship can essentially come into balance. And it's all happening in synchrony with a significant other. So, dear Taurus, we're about 4 minutes short of the other readings, but I think we've covered it here. You can reinterpret this however you want, make the best of it, of course. Please understand that even without any cups cards here, we're dealing with a lot of appreciation and value, and it might be a very disorienting period, but it's ultimately very beautifully for your benefit and for your healing. It's really quite beautiful. Okay, so thank you, dear Taurus. Thank you for watching. Read your sun, moon, and rising, and also watch the little introduction video for all signs, so that you understand the hows and whys of this particular little spread and why I read it this way for you. Okay, so well done, Taurus. All the best in June. Bye bye.